left religion, Christianity, and fundamentalism, I realized that the church supports criminalizing abortion and suppressing female reproductive rights. Now, I'm going to start off here saying that I'm very much aware that I'm going to be getting a lot of hateful comments from Christians. It's always Christians. Not every church. That's true, but I'm not talking about every church. I'm talking about my experiences and hundreds of thousands of people I've met online that talk about every denomination and what kind of experiences they've had. Plus, I have church history on my side. I know exactly what churches are doing. Historically, at least for the Southern Baptist Convention, before Roe versus Wade became federal law, until it didn't, Southern Baptist churches and conventions actually supported women's rights to have an abortion, to reproductively control, through autonomy, the kind of lives they wanted. After Roe versus Wade was passed in the 70s, the Southern Baptist Church immediately flipped and decided that abortion was immoral. And there's only one reason for this: political. It was in their favor. They could make money off challenging women's autonomy and reproductive rights under federal and state law. Since, if I remember correctly, 1973 was when Roe versus Wade was passed. Since 1973, Christian organizations, Christian churches, and Christian groups have made billions trying to get Roe versus Wade overturned. And what's the outcome? Roe versus Wade was overturned. But what was the result? More children and mothers are dying because of abortion bans. It didn't make mortality or the death of children and mothers go down. It's actually doubling. And this is all because of, it happens in places that have really no access or limited access to great health care. They live in districts and territories where abstinence-only sex education is taught, very low minimum wage. This is where conservative Republican values thrive. The cities and states with the highest murder statistics. Because the more you worship guns, the more people die. And statistically speaking, a white, cis, heterosexual male is most likely to shoot somebody. So why, if Christians and Christianity really doesn't care about the unborn and mothers dying in higher quantities with an abortion ban, why do they still support it? If something kills people, wouldn't the pro-life people want to reverse that, change it, and save more lives? Abortion has always been political. Female reproductive rights has always been political. That's why, if you want to be elected to any office in the United States, abortion is always mentioned. Up there with the economy, education, LGBTQIA plus rights. It's a political issue. But even if we go away from politics, why do Christians support abortion bans and criminalizing abortion? Because religion has never viewed anything than a woman who has control over her own body? Why are there almost no laws controlling male reproduction, but hundreds of thousands of laws that control when and how women give birth? Because if you can control how life comes into the world, how life is even created, you control 51% of the people on the planet. Women outnumber men. If all 100% of women rejected the patriarchy and chose to be in charge, men would never see power again. Because women believe they're inferior and less than, that they don't deserve to be in positions of power. That's why patriarchy survives. It's all about controlling and bringing out the comfort of privileged men. That's why white old men want to control women's bodies, because they've always controlled women's bodies. It goes all the way back to the Bible. Women were listed as cattle. They were listed as property. The Bible views women as property. And if you believe in the Bible, even if you'll never admit it, if you believe in the Bible and support Christianity, you believe that women are inferior. Your very doctrine and core beliefs are that women are property. Because Christians can say all they want about, I support women's rights. But if you vote for people like Trump, who do not see women as human beings, that they're inferior to be exploited and used, you believe exactly what he does. Whom you vote for is who you really are. And it's not much of a stretch to think otherwise. And as long as we allow men who have no clue how the body works, who actually fire people who want to learn about the body, who actually gives you statistics on how the body works, and you fire them because you don't like what it says, you don't care about women. You don't care about their safety. Abortion has never been about protecting unborn life. It's been about using women and controlling how they use their body. Because if you can control how a woman uses her body, you control the world. If you can control how life comes into the world, you control the world. And for some reason, people just can't get that. And anyone who votes Republican and calls himself a conservative do not see women as equals. They don't see them as fully adult, fully human, who has a right to decide what's in her body. And they can lie to your face and say, oh no, I don't believe that women are inferior. If you vote for people like Trump, who do not see people as equal, who actually touches women without consent, you don't view women as equal. You can't support something if you're not okay with it. But the pro-life crowd, they don't care about children. They care about influence, greed, politics. They villainize people who don't want to be privileged. They villainize people who from birth aren't overly masculine, who doesn't want traditional relationships, even though it's not really a choice. And that's just the way the world works. Hopefully someday we'll cast that off and men will finally get what's coming to them. And what is coming to them? Equality. And they're going to feel oppressed because they're used to privilege. It's not a big jump. As long as men vote conservative for men of privilege who abuse their authority, and treat women like dirt, they don't love women. Because men who respect women would never vote for Trump. They would rather abstain from voting vote for a rapist. Okay? And it's not even about politics, even though abortion is a big political thing. It's about the people who don't believe in abortion. They either don't see themselves as fully equal to men, or they believe the lie that men are better. And Christianity, to its core, believes that men are superior to women. That's just the way it is. Is it okay? Of course not. But that's just the way the world works. Maybe someday we can fix that. I mean, every day, every year, we're fixing it. 45% of women no longer want to have children. So I think the world is slowly waking up to realize that they don't have to be anything. If you don't want to have kids, no, there should be no law saying you have to have kids. And any country that forces women to have kids, carry kids they don't want, or do anything that they don't want to do, is an evil country. And at the end of the day, I had this explained to me by somebody with a degree in topics like abortion. Christians love Sharia law, the Muslim law. They love it. Christians love Sharia law. They just like to repackage it as white man's privilege, Christian nationalism. But at the end of the day, Christians love Sharia law. They don't believe women should speak. They don't see women as 100% human. They see women as pieces of meat. They say that women should cover up because they're tempting people. Their book actually stoned women for having an opinion. This is Muslim culture. Now, before people in the comments call me an Islamophobe, I have no problem what religion you are. I don't care. There's a difference between practicing Muslims and Muslim extremists. Okay? Very few Muslims actually believe and explain away 9/11. I would say 99% of Muslims were horrified. Because real Muslims, they don't want people to get hurt. They're just normal people. They're like Jews and Buddhists. They live their life quietly, just doing what they want to do. They don't want to start a race war or a religious war. They just want to live their life without fear of somebody thinking they're a terrorist. But Christians love Sharia law. They villainize Sharia law because it's a non-white man's law. But as soon as a white person starts talking about it, they love it. The whole biblical text is about Sharia law. They just call it the law of Moses, the law of Christianity, the 10 Commandments. The 10 Commandments are as brutal as the Sharia law. And trust me, if we became the Handmaid's Tale, very few men of privilege would be alive very long, because I do not want to know how many of them had committed adultery. I don't want to know. If we lived under the Mosaic law, very few men would be alive, because they can't keep their hands to themselves. They commit adultery. They lie. But no. Christians love Sharia law. They love the privilege. But if they actually lived under it, most of them would die because they can't keep the 10 Commandments. I read somewhere that half of married couples have committed adultery. You can just imagine what a self-righteous community like a Christian church, how many of those people have committed adultery. But no. Christians love extremism. They will enable and explain away the worst atrocities in human history. Do all of them do that? No. But the biggest denominations consistently do. They're the ones who get people elected and who donate millions. If you want to get rich or control a lot of people, start a religion.